Hey everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful start to your weekend. It's Saturday morning here. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit today and tell you about the story of a guy who got in way over his head when it came to gambling. So this story takes place back when I had first gotten to prison itself and passed the county jail stage, past processing in Baltimore City, and ended up sent up all the way into the mountains of Western Maryland. I'm up here and I've been about a year at this point. I'm locked up and still kind of figuring out, what I'm going to be doing for the next, about 16, 17 years or so. As far as work, who I'm going to be hanging out with, you're still getting your feet wet 1 year in on a 21-year sentence. So I remember this very vividly because I was paying attention to my surroundings more so than I did at points later on in my bit. Once you get a little bit used to the lay of the land, you're not as concerned about every single little thing as you are when you first walk through the door. It's like going to a whole other country or even another planet if you've never been before. So, a year in, I'm watching a lot. I'm trying to stay busy, which I am. I'm working at this point. I'm trying to shave down my sentence by, staying out of trouble, getting good time for work in my job, and honestly just keeps me busy. So I'm doing that. I'm participating in sports. You had sports leagues. I ended up playing on a volleyball league in prison. I know it sounds crazy. We had a beach volleyball league in the joint, as weird as that sounds. And lost the championship, even though we got all the way to the finals. But that's for another day. So I was playing softball out in the big yard with a group of guys. I came on the tier. They said, "Hey, you're young and athletic. You want to play softball?" Yeah, I could play some softball. Let's do that. So I'm very busy with this. I play softball with a lot of the guys, and I'm still not too trusting of anyone. You got to watch people's character before you can get too close with them. But one of the guys on my softball team happened to be on the same tier that I was in the same housing unit. And, he's kind of a funny guy. I liked him at first. He made me laugh. He was, he's a breath of fresh air in there. It's not all serious all the time. You got some people that like to joke and just have fun, and you can find them, and you can hang out in those groups. You can be with the miserable people if you choose to as well. I chose to, not take everything as seriously as some of the more like stern-faced, angry guys who are just nasty. You didn't even want to be near them. So, if I got to do time, I at least wanted to be a little bit easier. So, this guy on my tier, we played softball together. Liked him at first. Thought he was an alright guy. When I saw him, he goes over and he likes to gamble when it comes to playing poker. Hey, people play poker. People play cards. They bet on anything. They'll bet on college football is a big one, college basketball, pro league, all the NFL. That was about the only one that I would ever gamble would be a block pool or a pick all for like NFL ticket. That was it. I wasn't into it too much. You give them $1, and if you win, it's winner take all on the pick ticket, and you get a big giant sack of commissary, which is nice. That's pretty cool. So it's like, all right, I can throw $1 into this if I'm feeling it, if this week's matchup, whatever. You don't play it. Wasn't a real big gambler, but here and there, I do those pulls. Didn't get on the poker table, first of all, because I wasn't good enough to get on, and they weren't playing for just a good time. They were playing for money. So I'd watch these guys play, and an old boy that was on a team with me, was on a tier, he was on that table a lot. He seemed to do okay for the most part, but he got into a pretty bad streak where he started losing out. Started losing a lot of money. And he got into a particularly nasty guy. A very, very bad person. He left a sour taste in my mouth just seeing him on the tier. I knew other guys didn't like him either. Again, no names here, but this dude, he did 25 years, day for day, on a 25-year sentence because of how much of he was just a knucklehead. Total knucklehead. Didn't want to be around him, period. Well, the guy on the softball team gets into him for a lot of money. Didn't look too good. So he was able to buy some time with the guy. Said, okay, look, let me do this, let me do that, let me sell a few items, and I'll give you some of your money, I'll get the rest to you. I said, okay. So he did, and like I said in a short that I put up before, I bought some CDs off the guy and a pair of shoes because the fire sale, you can get discounted items. So I got them real cheap, too. Went in there and got some CDs and shoes. So I helped him out and I helped me at the same time. And apparently it wasn't enough. So he got a marker, a little line of credit. Was able to continue to get back on the table while he was in the hole, try to work himself out. I think he made a deal with this guy and was like, hey, let me back in. If not, I'll make sure you get paid no matter what. So he's back on the table. He's out there a lot, and I see him start sweating. I mean, like you can see his countenance the countenance on his face started to drop, and you knew he was getting worried. I mean, you can smell tension in the air, and I could see the other guy that he was into starting to get a little smile on his face, a no good smile. I knew it wasn't good. Well, when your choices in prison come down to paying your debts or not paying your debts, there is a hefty, steep price to pay if you welch out and don't give someone the money that you owe them. I mean, it can be a life or death scenario. Usually the guys want their money, so they'll work with you. So the options for softball player at this point aren't too good. They are to pay the man, she doesn't have the money, and he wasn't able to get it. Either his family knew that they weren't going to send him that much because he was doing something stupid, or maybe they didn't talk to him, I don't know, but he wasn't able to get money sent in from the outside to put on his books and pay the guy off. He didn't have enough to sell to pay the guy off. I never knew the exact tally on this debt, but it was, in jailhouse money, it was quite substantial. I think it was up to a few $100s. And that's a lot of money because you make about $1 a day working your job detail if you work a job detail. It's like 95 cents if you work like a kind of a lame job, or $1.05 if you work a primo job. So yeah, that's the rates in there, and he was up, I think it's several $100s. And so he didn't want to check in, which is put yourself voluntarily into protective custody, because to do so you basically are marking yourself for the rest of your term, and if you come out of PC at any point, that will follow you. So the guy didn't do that. He didn't check in. He didn't go in there and name drop and do what he had to do to get put to the chicken coop, as we called it. So he didn't go there. He didn't have the money. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's he going to do? It's getting real. This guy's already hurt a lot of people before through his incarceration. 25 years, day for day. No good time. Not even a mandatory out. He lost his mandatory time. And for those of you who know what I'm talking about, he was a hardhead. Well, softball player did the only thing that he, I guess, felt that he could do at this point. He made a deal with this nasty person and moved himself into the cell with him to work off his debt. And that's exactly what you think. I'm not going to explicitly say what he did or did not do because I wasn't in there, and I didn't really think that he would go to that length. But the next day, when he first was in that cell and he moved out, or he came out for chow, I saw him waddle down the tier. Man, that was a sight for a guy that was about a year in, because to be quite honest, you don't see a whole lot of that. There's enough guys of that persuasion that they're not taking it from people. There's enough fellas giving it up, if you catch my drift. So it wasn't really like it wasn't a forceful thing, not regularly, not that I saw. Well, he comes waddling out of the cell. I couldn't believe it. He just tried to pretend like everything was cool. Now, I don't even want to be on the softball team with this cat. I don't want to be around him because I'm like, oh my goodness. And so he was in there for a few months at least a few months, working his debt off. Which brings me to another question that I've always had. How does that work? What is the monetary value for each bit that you have to work off there? I don't know. I guess these are terms you got to come up with. And I certainly never found out. There's no filing bankruptcy in prison. You don't get to file bankruptcy. It's they come calling and they want their money when it's time to pay up. So say what you will about this guy. I mean, he got in way over his head. That's undeniable. But he did not check in. And he paid his bills. As messed up as that can be. But he actually earned a weird sort of respect because he didn't check in and he didn't run like a chicken. I don't know if it's the right thing. Well, actually, I know it was not the right thing to do because that's disgusting. But yeah, so he paid his bills, no matter how you slice it. It's just a heck of a thing to get in over your head like that with somebody else that's got a lot of power over you now in a powerless situation. So, for me, I stayed away from the poker tables. I didn't gamble. Really, like I said, beside the block pool, that was it. Well, football, pick-all ticket. If I lose $1, I lose $1. I'm not losing my peanut butter like this fella did. Now, the craziest part of this whole incident is after he paid the debt, he went straight back to the poker table. I can't figure that. It doesn't make any sense to me. And me and my buddies just looked on in amazement, like pure bewilderment that this guy was foolish enough to put himself in that situation again. Now, I don't think he lost that much, and he didn't get in over his head where the situation had to be so extreme, but he was dumb enough to put himself in that boat. Which brings me to one of my favorite things that a saying that I live by. The wise man does not get himself into what the smart man has to get himself out of. Remember that. That's something that can save you a lot of trouble in a very bad situation. If you see it coming down the road, avoid it. It's your best bet than trying to put that fire out later. Anyway, I hope you guys like this video. If you'd like to see more, just stay tuned. I'm going to try to drop something every day. Hope you all have a great weekend. Talk soon.